How can we make the world better? By making ourselves better. The Dr. Joe Show explores how you can make positive personal change by using his groundbreaking and highly effective I Am approach to understand who we are and why we do what we do. Your small changes can have big effects.
Join us now for the Dr. Joe Show with Mark Stiles of Stiles Law and your host, Dr. Joe Schrand.
Welcome to the Dr. Joe Show. Everyone
and anyone, no matter who, where, what, when, why, you are welcome to the Dr. Joe Show. Thank you, Mark Stiles of Stiles Law.
All are welcome, including our favorite friends with 4 legs. They can listen.
Yes, they sure can. You know that I sent Bella, because we're talking about dogs tonight, I sent Bella to our canine college recently, and she graduated with her doctorate.
Oh, boy.
Thank you. Yeah, we're starting. It was a howl, though, wasn't it?
Oh, here we go.
All right. I'm going to get
game
rough.
on. I love it. I love that they flow so easily through that brilliant mind of yours.
A blessing and a curse. It is. I don't mean to hound you with them, though. I don't
know. Oh, boy.
Already.
I think you dug for that one. I do. I think you dug a little deep for that one.
You think I dug a little deep for that?
Yeah. You dug under the fence. Yeah. No, I'm not going to give that one free flow.
Okay, all right. Let me take a pause. Speaking of that,
yeah.
Tom, could you, or who's introducing our guest tonight? Mark.
I'm going to introduce our guest.
Our guest tonight, please.
Yes, I am honored to do so, Dr. Joe. We have a local celebrity here with us on the Dr. Joe Show. You may know him as a member of your select board in the town of Marshfield, Massachusetts, but he's also an achiever. He's an individual who saw something that he wanted. He knew that it was good for the community. He knew all of the benefits that would come through following through with his goal, and he stuck with it, and he kept digging, and he recently was approved, him and his team, to have a dog park opened in the town of Marshfield. And I am really fascinated with dog parks, so I asked you, Dr. Joe, let's talk dogs again. If you recall, our number one trending episode for a very long time was the one when your beloved Dodger. But without further ado, Dr. Joe, Tom, I want to introduce you to Steve Darcy, the one and only. Welcome, Steve.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys. Looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun.
It is a pleasure. Welcome, Steve Darcy. So this is a long time goal for you. How long have you been trying to get a dog park here in Marshfield?
It's probably been 5 years at this point. So a common joke I've been making a lot lately is that this project started in my 20s and will finish in my 30s. That's how long it's taken.
Wow. Why the resistance, do you think, to a dog park? It just seems such a logical thing.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought it would be an easy sell, but here we are 5 years later. So, I mean, there's so many dog owners in our community. If you walk around your neighborhood, it seems like every third house has a dog in it. So it's just a great place to, take your dog to socialize. And it's a great place for people and owners to meet and get together as well. So I think people are just maybe either unaware of how many dog owners are in town and how this would benefit a huge portion of our community. And then I think there are just some people who just don't want to, have any taxpayer money appropriated towards a dog park, even though it would serve a good chunk of our town's population.
Well, think about that, Dr. Joe. If you were unaware and you were not part of the dog owners community, what do you care? Why are we spending money? Now, the beauty of this, and Steve can speak to it a little bit more eloquently, though, is that it was a public-private partnership. So it wasn't all town funds. They were required to also raise funds of their own. And then the amounts that are on your tax bill for the CPA, the Community Preservation Act, that's on your tax bill, folks. In Massachusetts, is depending on if your town adopted this wonderful statute, part of your tax bill goes to this to be used for things such as dog parks and playgrounds and open space and affordable housing and other wonderful things to help preserve your community and make your community stronger. And they utilize those funds as well as some of their own funds. So, but back to the person who doesn't have a dog. I don't want that. Why are we spending money on that? Right? That's real.
And yet we have a town in which we also have a senior center that people were willing to spend money on, and seawalls that people were willing to spend money on, that there was resistance to that as well. But we were able to remind people that we're one town, and I hope that's sort of the message as well with this, that it's going to benefit everyone.
So when were you first introduced to the concept of a dog park, Steve?
So I was actually on vacation in June on a ferry to Block Island. I was reading the Boston Globe, and there was a story in the Globe South section about a town north of us, the town of Ayr, and how they had built a dog park with a grant from the Stanton Foundation. And so I just couldn't believe the dollar figure attached that they got. So you get up to $250,000 for a grant from the Stanton Foundation that goes towards the construction of the park and then getting the design ready for bid. So I thought it would be an easy sell that we had a private grant that would help finance a good chunk of this. And it's the hardest part along the way was finding a location. But that's when I first got started. I was on the Recreation Commission at the time, looking for a project that would improve our town that fell under the purview of recreation. So that seemed like a good logical fit. And taking my dog growing up to dog parks really helped socialize her and get her good exercise and mental stimulation. So it's something I wanted to do for the town.
So you had dog parks when you were a kid?
So I would travel all the way to Hingham to Stotter's Neck. So that's like a 40-minute drive from where I lived at the time. So that was before Scituate existed. So before Scituate's park, I would go all the way to Hingham to take my dog to a dog park on the weekends.
Yeah, because Dr. Joe, I never really understood or saw the need for dog parks. And I've been a dog owner forever, but I've always taken my dogs to the trails until it wasn't a great place for Rudy, because as you know, he started to lose his eyesight, and being the friendliest specimen on the planet started going up to kids and barking at them when it was always say hello, stick your head down, get a pat, move on. But he didn't know if they were kids or bears or other dogs or what. So that's when I was introduced to the dog park, and it's been unbelievable. And the community within dog parks, it's really fascinating, because if you are a dog owner, everyone in there is a dog owner, right? So you're in that community. We've talked about community a lot, Dr. Joe, and you brought it up again with the one community when other people in that community don't own dogs, but the subsect of the community that does own dogs, really interesting.
Yeah, and it's not confined. There's not like an admission requirement that you have to have a dog. If you want to just go and check it out, I highly recommend it. It is a remarkable culture, but you get to see the personality of these dogs. Steve, do you have dogs or had dogs?
Yes, I have 2 dogs currently.
And what was the appeal of a dog park for you? You've been to the one in Scituate, you traveled 40 minutes to go to another one. Why would you take your dogs to a dog park?
Sure. I mean, just seeing how happy it makes them is worth the price of admission. But also too, I mean, if I take them on a leashed walk versus a dog park, the mental stimulation they get from the park is so much bigger and better, and it really tuckers them out more too. So I can guarantee you that the busiest day of the week will be the Sunday morning before a Patriots game. People want to be able to relax and enjoy the game, but the dogs are happy as can be. It's like going to Disney World for them, and they get kind of the stimulation that they need, and it tuckers them out way more than a leashed walk does.
It's so true. Just to clarify, it was a turn of phrase, price of admission. There is no price of admission, but what you do need to do is bring a poop bag just in case. Many of the places have them though, right? They provide them as well.
Yes, so we'll have poop bags. Situate has them, and then their nonprofit, the Friends of the Situate Dog Park, they have a private company that picks up anything that gets missed, and then also will restock and replenish those bags too.
Yeah, so people don't need to worry that there's like piles of dog poop around. It is absolutely pristine in that way, and the dogs, it is magic watching this. We were in Chicago when we saw our first dog park in Chicago on the lake, and it was, I mean, there were dozens and dozens and dozens of dogs, people just hanging around the lake, having their, their picnics. The dogs had developed their own society, and there wasn't any dog like growling and annoyed with another. They were just running in and out of the water. Then when we walked further down at the lake, people were bringing their dogs, and you could see how excited these dogs were, knowing, oh man, it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be so much fun. They just couldn't wait to get there. It's a remarkable experience. I mean, dogs are remarkably social animals. We know that, but there is something watching these dogs just learning how to play with each other, and the personalities that come through from the dogs. Mark sent me a video today of two dogs sort of lying down. You want to describe that? That was quite a wonderful
Yeah,
moment.
it was funny. So the other added benefit to the dog park is, we have Papacito, we rescued from Puerto Rico, and he's been challenging is a nice way to explain the challenge of raising this dog. But the ability to train him within the confines of other understanding people and dogs, right? It's an open arena to, nail down some of the commands. But it was something I had never seen him do before. I wasn't going to video it for you. I was videoing it because I was going to send it to the kids and say, look what Papacito's doing. But he got down real low as the other dog was approaching. I've seen other dogs do this, but I've never seen Papacito do it. But then the dog that was approaching also got down really low, and it was like a standoff. They were both eyeballing each other. And then the dog entering kind of got up slow, meandered over to Papacito, got right up close to him, realized he wasn't going to do anything, and kind of jumped at him like, let's go play now. We're all right now. And it was fascinating. It was really, really interesting. But my dogs, they can sense we're getting close to the place, and they start going nuts. And it's, as much as we could get them to stop barking in other places, you don't even try. That's a battle you simply let continue, because they see the Disney world out there that they're about to get to, and it's absolutely exciting. So I'm excited that you persevered and pushed through and was able to get this for our local town, so we don't have to cross borders and go into those other communities. We're going to stick with the community theme, I guess, Dr. Joe, the dog community and the dog lover community and the local communities. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, they're remarkable. Steve, you emailed us something. Do you have access to that wonderful piece that you emailed us today?
I do, yes.
Can you read some of that to us? It was just wonderful. It's from how long ago?
From the 1800s. So basically a neighbor was suing another neighbor for shooting and killing his dog. And It's funny because the lawyer that he hired later became a U.S. senator. And I'm pretty sure it might have been Missouri. I could be wrong. But he was also one of the few Southern senators to oppose the Civil War because he wanted to keep the Union together. So, but basically, this is an excerpt from his closing argument in the case. And it's just my favorite quotation about dogs because it just kind of captures their essence so perfectly and why we love them. So I'm glad you got a kick out of it. Let me see if I can read the whole thing or just an excerpt, because I'm sure we're under some time constraints.
No, you go right ahead. We got a few minutes. Let's read this.
All right, perfect. All right, so it starts with, gentlemen of the jury, The best friend a man has in this world may turn against him and become his enemy. His son or daughter that he has reared with loving care may prove ungrateful. Those who are nearest and dearest to us, those whom we trust with our happiness and our good name, may become traitors to their faith. The money that a man has, he may lose. It flies away from him, perhaps when he needs it most. A man's reputation may be sacrificed in a moment of ill-considered action. The people who are prone to fall on their knees to do us honor when success is with us may be the first to throw the stones of malice when failure settles its cloud upon our heads. The one absolutely unselfish friend that a man can have in this selfish world, the one that never deserts him, the one that never proves ungrateful or treacherous, is his dog. A man's dog stands by him in prosperity and in poverty, in health and in sickness. He will sleep on the cold ground where the wintry winds blow and the snow drives fierce, if only he may be near his master's side. He will kiss the hand that has no food to offer. He will lick the wounds and sores that come from encounters with the roughness of the world. He guards the sleep of his pauper master as if he were a prince. When all other friends desert, he remains. When riches take wing and reputation falls to pieces, he is as constant in his love as the sun is in its journey through the heavens. If fortune drives the master forth an outcast in the world, friendless and homeless, the faithful dog asks no higher privilege than that of his company to guard against danger, to fight against his enemies. And when the last scene of all comes, and death takes the master in his embrace, and his body is laid away in the cold ground, no matter if all other friends pursue their way, there by his graveside will the noble dog be found, his head between his paws, his eyes sad, but open in alert watchfulness, faithful and true, even in death. And needless to say, they won the case.
Yeah. It's so true, isn't it? It's remarkable, the faithfulness of our dogs.
It's like that story of that dog in Japan that would wait at the train station every day until it died, when his owner died on a business trip once and never came home. They have a statue of that dog outside the train station. I wish I remembered the name.
There's a statue outside the Missouri one too, right? Of the courthouse that you were reading from. Oh, they have a statue of the dog there as well. That was a good story.
Yeah, I think we want to get like a rock with that quotation engraved on it at like the entrance of the park. I think that'd be pretty cool. But you're right, they do have that in front of the courthouse in Missouri, which is pretty awesome. I'm glad you looked that up and you found it.
Yeah, no, it was nice. It was a great story you sent.
Yeah, I mean, the faithfulness of dogs is unparalleled. So Steve Darcy is our guest, and he has been able to put together the platform basically and the votes for the dog park. Was it close? It seemed kind of close.
Yes. So there were two articles at the most recent town meeting. The first was approval of the new location, and that was close because that required a 2/3 vote. And then thankfully for the CPC additional funding, that was 50% plus one. But yeah, so I thought we had a pretty solid lead when I watched all the yays stand up to be counted. And then as I saw the no tallies start to tick up, I was like, ooh, it's going to be tight. And I think it ended up being maybe 73%. And we needed 67. So, but it was close. There were not a lot of folks there. So just a small number of vote changes that could have been the difference.
Yeah. It's just remarkable to me that people don't understand. And I will admit, I got up and spoke in favor of it. And one of the things that is really fascinating is the psychology that goes along with having a dog. Mm-hmm. And how during COVID, if you had a dog, you were actually less likely to get sick and less likely, to struggle. There's a really interesting article. You know, dogs, there's this chemical called oxytocin, right? Not OxyContin, oxytocin, which is basically the neurohormone of love and trust. Dogs and humans just like build that with each other crazy. So your dog is helping you feel so loved and valued. Just, you know, it's remarkable. It's what an IM is about. But there's another really interesting thing that happens. I'm sorry, I'm getting kind of shrinking and scientist on this, but this is fascinating. When you take your dog for a walk, it's not oxytocin that is increasing. It's actually GABA and GABA variants. GABA is a chemical that relaxes people and de-stresses. So when you're taking your dog for a walk, it's not just exercising, you're really just sort of de-stressing. And I hope people can understand why it's so important to have dog parks, because we have ordinances in our town where you're not allowed to take your dog certain places. And that makes sense, because dogs, they're dogs. They don't understand always the social nuance and expectation. So they may do what they need to do someplace that they probably shouldn't. But having a dog park, it's a place where there's an expectation. But I found out also that doesn't it increase your property values in a town? Did you know that your property values in the whole town go up where there's a dog park?
Yeah, that makes sense because it's another amenity that our town offers that a lot don't.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So again, I want to come back to you, Steve, because you were really determined to get this done. Was there ever a time that you doubted it was going to happen?
Yes, there were many times where it seemed like we just were never going to find the parcel. And just along the way, we thought we identified one and then someone files a restriction, or we thought we had a good site and then there's an old restriction that someone discovered that was not top of mind for people who thought, they could go ahead and approve it. So for example, I had a committee meeting where I thought they were going to vote to approve it. And then probably 5 hours before the meeting, I got a heads up that they found this restriction. It wasn't going to go through. So that was like our second or third option that fell through. And then we finally get some land. And then the cost that came back, the estimate was just astronomical. So then I thought we were dead at that point. And then thankfully this site became available. So probably at least 5 different times over the last 5 years, I thought we were in rough shape and it might not happen. But thankfully our team never gave up and kept pushing forward. And, we're lucky to have the team that we do.
But can you talk about that? Because that not giving up part is so important. How did you find that faith, that confidence in the goal?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer, and there's a few variations in this quote, but I think that luck favors the well prepared, or luck is what happens when opportunity meets preparation. So I was just kind of hoping that if we kept plugging away and never gave up, and there were so many people in our community who have been so supportive throughout all these setbacks. I didn't want to let them down, so that kind of helped me continue to move forward. And it helped having a great team where you could vent to each other and bounce ideas off it. But our team was optimistic too, and that became very infectious.
But that is also a part of the IM. Mm-hmm. Is, even though you're at your current maximum potential, we have these systems, these communities, which is what, Mark's been talking about as well. How did you find the people to join you in this?
It's funny because it all happened very organically. People would reach out through Facebook, or they'd get my number from someone else and shoot me a text. So it was just me way back in the beginning. I made a Facebook page for the dog park and people started reaching out that way. And then our team kind of organically built up and formed through that. And then once people joined our board, they would think of people they were friends with who might be a good fit, and they'd recruit folks that way too. So it happened pretty organically.
It's important because I think there may be other towns that face, the desire to have a dog park and some of the obstacles that you face. Which were the greatest obstacles that you had to overcome?
Yes, for us, it was finding a location, I would say. And, all the parts of Marshfield that could be developed have been, and we had to find town-owned land too. So that's the hard part. That's a requirement for the Stan Foundation grant, that it has to be town-owned land because they want it to be available to the public. So finding the location was the hardest part. And it seemed like every time we did find a location, it would fall through, or there would be another setback for another reason. So that was the hardest part for us. And maybe for other towns, it would be fundraising and things of that nature. But I think it's always finding the location, and then you got to worry about the NIMBY factor. So finding the right spot is tricky.
people may not know what NIMBY means. You want to just spell it out
Sure.
for them?
Not in my backyard.
Yeah, not in my backyard. You faced that even when it looked like it was going to get passed, right? There was people came up, said, well, it's too close to this, it's too close to that. How is there a standard size for a dog park?
I would say most of the ones that I've seen on the Stanton Foundation website, they're usually about an acre or less. So ours, I think, will have about 2 acres to work with. We'll have a small dog area and a large dog area, which will be good. But I would say about an acre is maybe the average. But in Boston, some of them are as small as half an acre or even 0.35 acres, and some suburban towns have over 1.5 acres. But I'd say one's the average.
You're going to have different sections for small dogs and big dogs?
Yes, and they'll each have their own independent entrance, and it'll be like dual gate entry too. So you open one gate, you come in, close it behind you, and then open the other gate to the park. So that way no dogs are escaping in the parking lot off leash and things of that nature.
I'm curious about that. Why the decision to have parks based on dog size?
Sure, I think part of it is people who own a small dog might be worried about an interaction with a dog that could be like 10 times their size and their weight. And then some big dogs, they're perfectly playful, but they don't realize how big they are, and they can kind of get a little rough with some of the smaller dogs. So it's mostly just to kind of keep them safe. And if you watch the smaller dogs too, they're usually the ones who are more reactive to, size differentials than the big dogs are.
Interesting. That makes a lot of sense. So what about the mid-sized dog? How will they decide which place to go? Maybe they get to go to both.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to ask people to use their discretion and see what might work best. So if you have a really timid dog, maybe they're a better spot if they're medium-sized to go in the small dog area. But if you have a medium-sized dog who's very outgoing, doesn't care, then you can probably take them to a large dog area. But we hope that people use their discretion and exercise it wisely.
It really is interesting, the culture. Mark, you were going to say something?
I was going to ask, does the foundation give you guidance with that type of thought process and design and such?
Yes. And so this question has come up before with other parks. So Situate, this was actually in the newspaper a couple of years ago. And basically their friends group said, hey, if your dog's medium sized, use your discretion for what you think is the best fit based on their personality.
But they never built the small dog park.
Correct. Yep. So at the time, this was like right on the heels of their initial victory at town meeting. And then they had some cost overruns too. So you're right that they only built one big area, but at their most recent town meeting, they just got another $75,000 from CPC, so they can finally add on and complete the small dog area.
Nice. What were you going to say, Dr. Joe?
Just how the dog park culture sort of creates its own boundaries. I mean, Mark and I would go to the dog park, with some frequency, because we both have dogs, and watching not just the way the dogs interacted, but the way the people interacted, and how sometimes if there was a dog that was like just seemed really uncool, the owners would get together and try to intervene. There was one time where one guy got just like really, really angry. Do you remember that, Mark?
I do. I haven't seen that person since, which is interesting. But you bring up a really good point, because going to these dog parks is an event in and of itself, right? There's people that you're going to recognize there. There's new faces, and what do you always say, Dr. Joe? Every friend was once a stranger.
That's right.
But there's this commonality of everybody who's there, and it's an immediate icebreaker, right? So the dog walks up and breaks the ice typically, right? And they're going to walk up and you're going to pet them. And I think it's a really interesting, it's interesting to go and watch people. It's if you're into people watching, it's a great place, a venue to do that, because it's almost like an adult playground, if you will, right? So you had the little kids at the playground, and then the adults are now watching their next generation of kids, and it's really interesting how people interact with one another, and it's a really interesting community
It really is. And um, my my kids are improvisers as well, and they thought, wouldn't it be great to do a skit? You know how, you're walking down the road with the dog, and somebody will just come up and say, "Oh, what a cute dog! Nice to see you." Imagine if that was like with husbands, right? So your husband is on the leash, and so, oh, what a cute guy. That's right. What does he do? Sit? Oh, that's so good. So I thought it would be actually a really nice Saturday Night Live skit about, showing how dogs just allow for socialization so easily. They are icebreakers, as Mark says. They just break the ice. You got to know your dog, whether you should let somebody come up and pat them or not. And, if the person is dog savvy, they will ask first if I could pat my dog. But sometimes, you just need to be aware of some of the rules and restrictions and some of the interesting nuances that go along with dogs.
And Steve, we were talking off air, as a community, it's also, it's like a pickup spot for single people, right?
Yes, definitely. You meet someone with similar interests and hobbies, and take off from there.
Are you single, Steve?
Yeah, I was going to say, you didn't say very much about that, Steve. Could you elaborate on that a little bit there, Steve?
Sure. Yep. I am currently a free agent, and hoping I've got some good karma coming my way. But yeah, but it is a great place to meet people and, potentially, pick someone up. We do have a slightly older demographic here in Marshfield. But if you go on a regular basis, you're bound to find someone.
Yeah, it's true. And you have something in common. I mean, there is something about being, a person who has a dog. I mean, we call them dog owners because, we're the ones who are paying for everything. But my goodness, they give so much back in return. It is amazing. It's amazing. Go on, Steve.
Yeah, it actually kind of ties into what you were saying earlier with IM, right? One thing we all have in common is we want to feel valued, and dogs certainly make us feel valued. So I know people love to joke about how the dogs don't work and don't pay any bills, but you're right that they give us so much back in return. And I wonder what we did to deserve dogs. I don't know what it was, but I'm definitely lucky that we have them around.
Yeah, nobody's really welcomed me at the house quite like the dogs do,
Right.
Yeah. Imagine if everybody welcomed you that same way. I mean, wow, what a wonderful world this would be.
Yeah.
I think
go on.
Oh, I think another point in the corner for dogs, Joe, wasn't it cheaper to send Bella to college than it was your kids?
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
But have you been to these dog training classes? They are fascinating as well, the culture there.
Yeah, they are a lot of fun.
And Bella, I mean, I'm really proud of her. She really is a smart dog, and she picks up on things, and she's so aware, but the expressions that she has. Now, this is an interesting evolutionary part. You know that dogs have developed muscles in their eyebrows that wolves do not have. Did you know that? You probably
did
knew
not.
that, right? Yeah. So wolves are pack animals in themselves, but very difficult to really get that sort of sense of connectedness with a wolf. The dog, the domestic dog, has developed muscles in their eyebrows that allows them to almost look like they're giving a human expression. And we've all seen that. And that's what triggers in us this mirror neuron effect, where we respond to our dog very often in kind. You asked a bit about deserving dogs. It is a really interesting evolution of the domestic dog and humans and how this all happened. And it's a show unto itself, honestly, because there's so many nuances to it. But there's something amazing. So having a dog park, I hope are we going to call it the dog bark? I hope. Are we going to?
I thought it was the bark park.
The bark park. I like that. Bark park is good. I like.
Yeah.
That's good. And we'll only have like hot dog vendors around.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But when we have the dog park, how do you think that could potentially affect our sense of community in Marshfield?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you both raised this point because I think it's an excellent point and it certainly deserves more oxygen where it is a huge benefit for people too. So I know that Situate, they've actually started busing seniors to their dog park to get them some socialization and interaction, during their week. So I think it's a huge benefit for so many people. We have the retirement community right in that area. And I think there are people who live there with small dogs and they probably aren't in the kind of condition to take them for leashed walks regularly, but they can come walk over the dog park and set their dogs loose. So I think it's a good benefit for the senior community. But it really is, you'll meet the nicest people in the world at a dog park. And you learn a lot too. I mean, I've met really experienced dog owners and I've learned tips and tricks from them and, things about dog behavior, but it really is, I'm excited for how it's going to be a big part of our community. And I genuinely believe it's going to be a great community space.
Yeah.
I agree. And it's really thoughtfully located too, near a lot of other places where people would go with their dogs. So soccer fields, right? The family is rushing around. We didn't get a chance to walk the dog, but it's a soccer game. So let's kill two birds, one stone, for lack of a better term, and let little Susie get out there and play some soccer while, Patch gets to run around and get all tuckered out, as Steve was saying, gets tuckered out and has a good night's sleep as opposed to pacing around. And it's a really, really thoughtfully placed park too. So I think it's gonna be great. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, I really am too. So when does all this happen?
So we have a building committee for the dog park, and basically we're going to get together pretty soon with the landscape architect. And he has the design already, but it was for the previous location. So he's basically going to superimpose it on the new parcel and make some tweaks and adjustments because it's a new location. So we're going to get together with him, kind of give him our final feedback. And then at that point, we have 90% ready to bid documents for the dog park. And then it's just a back and forth with the Stanton Foundation. And once they sign off on the design, we go out to bid. So we're hoping that we can go out to bid in June or July. And if it's a hot market right now, as we all know, but if the bids come back favorably, we can probably open in November. But if the bids come back really high, because the Stanton Foundation told us the market's pretty hot right now, we might, go out to bid again in the fall. But right now things are lining up pretty nicely where we're hoping that we can break ground in the fall and open the park officially.
How much money are we looking at for this?
So the estimate we have before, in-kind contributions to chip away at it is like $500,000 for the new location. And the reason this location was better is because it's a nice flat parcel. There's existing parking, which cuts down on costs, and there's trees there already, so it cuts down the number of plantings. But I know I'm in the same boat as a lot of folks. They say, how the heck can it cost that much to build a dog park? And I'm not a construction expert, so I reached out to some people who work in construction in town and also some engineers, and they said that the numbers check out. And the way they broke it down was it's really just a function of diesel and time. So you're probably looking at about maybe 2 weeks of land prep work to kind of grade it out and level it and things of that nature. And the cost of materials is really high, but because it's a public project, you have to pay prevailing wages. So that's 40 cents on every dollar as well. So it's this host of different factors that come together, but I'm as surprised as anyone, but we did verify the numbers. It's about 500,000 is what we're looking at.
And Stanton Foundation is contributing how much?
225. And one of the architects that we talked to said 5 years ago, this park would have cost half that amount, but
yeah,
this is the world we live in right now. But yeah, the Stanton's kicking in 225, which is very helpful. And then we got the additional 175 from CPC, which is very helpful as well.
So we're looking to raise how much funds then?
To get to 500. So we have about 37,000 in the Friends account right now. And then we have another 50,000 from CPC from 2 or 3 years ago. So we're just about there. But one thing, for example, right, there's a line item in the budget for $75,000 for wood chips. We've had 2 different folks anonymously come forward to take care of that. So that helps a lot. So just stuff like that. I know that we're there in terms of the numbers. And there's more things that folks are coming forward to donate as well, but that's kind of where we are.
And the wood chips is a perfect flooring for the park too, as that's what Situate's doing. It really works.
Yeah.
Yes, because that was a big debate too, is what surface to go with. Like grass just won't survive with just the trampoline, and then female dog urine in particular is destructive to grass. So wood chips seem to be the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes so much sense, because you don't want your dogs being clay and things like that.
And it makes it really easy to pick up the dog's poop too.
Right.
Exactly. You get all of it when it's on wood chips.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're coming to the end of the show. The show is based on the I am approach, the idea that we're all doing the best we can. And here we are in a community, a social domain that has really come together to help many, many individuals. Because the four domains of the home, the social, the biological, and the I see, how I see myself, how I think other people see me, because they interact, a small change can have a big effect. So, Steve, what small change can you recommend to our listeners when it comes to dogs and dog parks?
Yeah, so one thing I would say that's helped me a lot is if I can make the time in the morning to walk my dogs before work, it just kind of carries through with some positive momentum and progress throughout the rest of the day. And it's also good too, because then I know that the dogs can at least get tuckered out and rest while I'm away at work. So I feel less guilty when they're at home and I'm at work, but also it's good to get myself exercise as well. So I think even just 15 minutes, you get out of bed, take your dogs for a 15-minute walk, they're happy, you're happy, and it kind of carries through the rest of your day. So that would be my little tweak suggestion.
That's a great thing. At the Scituate Dog Park, there's a track, like a walking track around the center part where the dogs play. Is there going to be something like that designed?
Yes, so there will be stone dust like paths around the park. Yes.
Yeah, so you can also walk even while your dogs are playing.
Exactly.
So the second truth of the I am is everybody's got one. Everybody's interested in what you think or feel about them, which will have an effect on their biological domain, because it feels different when you feel respected or disrespected.
Mm-hmm.
This means you control no one, but you influence everyone. You get to choose the kind of influence you want to be. Steve Darcy, what kind of influence do you want to be?
I definitely want to be a positive influence for the town and leave it in better shape than when I found it. I feel like I kind of hit the cosmic lottery growing up here, and being in this town, it's given a lot to me. So I just want to be a positive influence and try to improve the town and help out good people.
Yeah. Well, we are fortunate to have you here as part of our town, Steve, as well as Mark and Tom. And we have some remarkable leadership here in Marshfield. I hope every town has that opportunity as well to support their leaders. Remember, small changes have big effects. You control no one, you influence everyone. That means your vote matters. So please go out there, vote for what you believe in, Folks, thanks so much. Steve, great to have you in our leadership here at the town.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate the kind words.
Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
And folks, don't forget, Unleashing the Power of Respect and I Am Reproach in all bookstores and Amazon.
Thank you, Mark. Bye, folks. We'll see you next week.